recap show here on Tuesday, 11/28. Gosh, just cranking out content for our followers, for our fan base. Staying, so we're good. Yeah, we're gonna do it. This was Cyber Monday, as you can tell. There was a rave. We did kind of a rave situation, so it's Cyber Monday. I like to do a little production value for people just to kind of make it fun, differentiate it, you know, keep things lively. I don't know. Okay, recently the crisis I've been having is, I wanted to be in show business, and so I wanted to do this big kind of show. And, the open mic goes through stages and phases, and it's constantly evolving, and it's constantly shedding its skin and becoming a new thing. And that's kind of what's interesting about it, and that's kind of what's, I don't know, melancholy ballad or something is like ultimately you're left alone. At the end of the day, it's just you and the microphone and the stage. And I don't know, I just like the idea of having a show in Manhattan. I kind of got obsessed with that. Lately I've been kind of reevaluating my poetry. We've got this reading on Thursday at Jefferson Market Library where I'm going to be doing. So this is kind of a preview of that. I need to do some poetry streams where I just read for the whole stream because there's a lot of stuff I need to catch up on. And it's really, you really have to see, you have to experience the pure unadulterated diary. You have to hear all of it, and you have to watch all of it on the vlog. So that's what we're going to do Thursday. That's why, to be honest, of all the performances I do, this is maybe the truest to what I'm trying to achieve with the filmmaking, but then reading the poem live with the film is a way of doing a live performance. But and also just like it's a diary thing, so I'm doing it in installments. The idea, you're getting a whole picture. If you listen to the poem, if you read the poem, if you watch the film, and then so you're getting them all at once in person. That's like a total work. It's like I'm trying to put people in the experience of living as it happened in the closest way that I can. Through, but only the best parts, and it is. So the Thanksgiving, we had the Thanksgiving Film Festival. We went vlog to vlog. Thursday's vlog to vlog. So over Thanksgiving, I mean, this is what I typically do during the holidays when I'm with my family at home in Ohio. Usually the entire freaking time that I'm there, the TV is on. Somebody's watching something. The TV is just constantly on. There's always movies. I mean, it's not My Dinner with Andre. It's not what I would choose to watch. But it's like there's just constantly, the classic Thanksgiving movie, right? Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. We had to watch that, of course. But it's always on to something, What do you want to watch? It's just like that's what you do. Even when we're eating now, it's like the fucking TV's on. And I do think that that's crazy and not good. I don't really love... I mean, this is one reason why I'm not completely... I've been having this identity crisis recently of just, what am I going to do? What do I do with the rest of my life? What am I good at? Where's my real talent? And, and I spent a lot of time, and I think I wanted to, I never necessarily limited what I did at any time to any one thing, but I definitely learned a lot from filmmaking and spent a lot of time watching Criterion DVDs, making films, this and that. And, it is what I do for my job, actually. But, I don't really watch films ever. It's like part of the reason why I think I don't do that is because just the way that film kind of, Alice Notley says in her great book Disobedience, which I talk, films are a fascist medium. Even though movies are better, like the Frank O'Hara poem, the movies are better than almost all American poetry except Whitman. What is it? Whitman and Williams. Frank O'Hara says American movies are better than all American poetry except for Whitman and Williams. I think is what it is. And I don't remember. I don't remember the exact lines. I'm paraphrasing. Uh, American movies are better than American poetry. That is a whole subject. I mean, American movies, Hollywood, that's part of what I was resisting. That's part of why I do Scenes from a Life. You know, I am, not to be pretentious or anything, but I am a filmmaker. Even though we jokingly kind of refer to it as vlogs and stuff. Like, I do feel like that is kind of the most intuitive, poetic. I like notebook form. I don't know. I like the kind of unformed. It feels natural to me. It feels Uh, it feels like an unprecedented time where we can use the notebook form and we can make, you know, sort of huge vlog kind of scale content, but do it casually and do it on the fly and do it like it's a sketchbook and include all the kind of jagged edges and the jump cutting and the natural lighting. But you know, we were watching all these Terrence Malick films, right? And Terrence Malick was like huge for me when I was younger. I love Badlands. Badlands. I mean, of course, Days of Heaven and Thin Red Line. This was like before the New World came out. You know, this was after Thin Red Line, before the New World. So it was like, you know, he had barely made 3 movies, and he had taken a 20-year gap between, and so he had the Tree of Life hadn't come out, which kind of solidified this kind of Malick kind of cliche style that like younger people would recognize now in all these films. So I hadn't seen Song to Song or Knight of Cups or I mean, I'd seen a little bit here and there, you know, of the newer stuff. But it was like when I was really, it was Badlands, right? Badlands was the movie because it's Martin Sheen. He's from Ohio. The character's like got this James Dean thing, right? He thinks he looks like James Dean and shit. And it played into a lot of those kind of the soundtrack and stuff. It was funny, but it was also, I don't know, it was poetic. You know, there was something uh, gentle going on there or something, even though it was a story about serial killers, right? You know, on kind of a crime spree. It was like a Bonnie and Clyde story. There was something that was a little more, you know, gentle, and it's kind of, you know, it doesn't glamorize it, you know, that's not what it's about, but it was like there's a naturalism to it, the cinematography, whatnot, the dialogue. It's like Chekhov or something, the comedy of that movie. And I don't know, it's like, you know, we were jokingly kind of referring to Terrence Malick's more recent films as his vlogs because they're kind of vlog like, the way it's all improv, and it's like he just gets a steady cam and just kind of throws his act. He'll find a piece of light on the floor or something and just kind of throw his actors into that situation. And I like his more contemporary films. They are fluid and they're very in the moment, but his dialogue is poetic. It's all voiceover. But it's also like Hollywood, and it's like big name actors and shit like this. So, you know, my shit is no budget, and it's obviously just part of like, I don't know. It feels to me like there is kind of like a zeitgeist of vlogging happening. So yeah, I want to talk about the Thanksgiving Film Festival, the films, because I don't typically watch films. Films are a fascist medium, right? So on the one hand, they're better than poetry, but at the same time, they're kind of inflated You know, the budgets are inflated. I mean, especially if you want to go into Hollywood filmmaking and that kind of machine and screenwriting and this and that. God, look at me. I always choose the most awkward positions on stage. Look at this. This is terrible. What am I doing? Look at me. I mean, I'm occupying less space, I guess. I'm on my tiptoes. I'm trying to it's an economic thing, you know. Movies cost money. Poetry is like the least expensive thing you can do. And I don't know, it's just like the least compromised, I think, if you want it to be. I mean, I guess my method, for lack of a better, has been to just find ways that I can do things for free. The way I make music, and the internet has kind of enabled that. Things like YouTube, things like the iPhone, things like voice memo, things like being able to record a fucking 1080p, you know, widescreen HD film with nice color and nice kind of quality, nice texture to the film, nice light. I mean, it's not perfect, but like, it's not lo-fi either. You know, it's actually a pretty nice looking film, and so I don't know. I always made film on my parents' video camera and camcorder and shit. It always was kind of like I always wanted to just film life, you know, but it felt like you had to write script, you had to fucking you know, have conflict, you had to go to school, you had to learn Robert McKee's story, you had to learn. You know, I took a lot of playwriting classes. I took a screenwriting class with this guy Andy Rose. He had been roommates with Steven Soderbergh, like before Sex, Lies, and Videotape. He had been roommates with Steven Soderbergh. Here's in that screenwriting class, my script was about, and this was in 2007, 2008. I'm not sure which year. I don't remember exactly. Maybe 2008. My script, my pitch was this. It was a character who fakes his own death on the internet, on a live stream, because he wants to find out what people think about him at his funeral. He wants to get, you know, he doesn't feel like he's getting enough praise or attention. He feels like he's misunderstood. So it's like he's going to fake, you know. Usually those kind of people aren't appreciated till after they die, right? And so he fakes his own death on a live stream, basically to get people to follow his YouTube. And also to have a funeral to hear what people say about him. You know, so he fakes his death basically because he's got a huge ego, and you know, he just wants people to say nice things about him. I didn't get that far into the screenplay, but that was like the basic idea. You know, which at the time, like all that technology and stuff was kind of new. And I think I saw there was an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where somebody has like a living funeral or something. to hear what people say about him or something. I don't remember. But it was kind of along those lines. One of the movies, we watched a couple Albert Brooks films because I watched this Albert Brooks documentary. One of the movies I was really into in college was Lost in America, you know, where they get the RV. The thing I liked about Albert Brooks was like, you know, it's almost like a sitcom, his setups and things. It's like he's got this nest egg, he retires, but it unfolds like a movie, like it's a story. They go to Vegas, his wife gambles all the money away, and so the rest of the movie, but it's shot really nicely. The cinematography's nice, the color is nice. You know, it's not like a Woody Allen movie where it's like totally autobiographical. There's not a lot of music in it. You know, like his movies are a little bit, I don't know. They are more like, I don't know, they just kind of unfold in front of you. And they just kind of movies used to do that. They would just kind of happen, and the things would kind of unfurl, and the story would kind of wander around. That was kind of nice, you know. We watched Defending Your Life, which like it was a little more programmatic and like was kind of science fiction. That was a little bit more of a Hollywood production. The music and the big set design and stuff, the ending, it was okay. It was an interesting idea, but the way it was, the theory of the movie is like, I don't know. I don't even want to go into it, but it's like this whole convoluted logic system, the way the characters kind of have, you know, the logic of the characters. And it's an interesting version of the afterlife, you know, but it was like, it wasn't like Modern Romance was the other one we watched. Modern Romance is a lot like Lost in America. They were kind of made around the same time, and they're kind of like, it's almost like a sitcom. It's like about his relationship. He breaks up with his... If you watch my films on YouTube, they are on YouTube, Love Means Zero and The Work of Three, they're a lot like this movie, Modern Romance, actually. They start out with like a breakup scene. My movie, Love Means... Because I was kind of trying to copy Seinfeld. Like Seinfeld, you could tell Larry David had watched Albert Brooks and was like, maybe... You know, the way that Modern Romance is about dating, it's about his girl, you know, what happens with his girlfriend. The character's kind of desperate and kind of weird and pathetic, and, you know, he just reacts in weird ways. He's kind of toxic, you would say. He's kind of like George, you know, like, he's just very petty, and George has kind of an Albert Brooks quality in some ways. And, you know, they're sitting in a booth, and, they're at a restaurant, and he's breaking up with his girlfriend. And it's kind of about, you know, the ethics and the morals and the decorum or whatever, the protocol of dating and stuff in 1980 or whatever, right? Being single, and so my movie was kind of like that, where it was like the scene was it was sort of like a comedy. It was. You know, it was meant to be like a Curb Your Enthusiasm script or a Seinfeld script. It was sort of autobiographical about a character. It had sort of a funny plot idea or something. But I wanted it to be shot nicely and look cinematic and, you know, look like... That's not all it was, but, you know, that was like... kind of the subject matter or whatever. I don't know. It was a way to talk about what I wanted to talk about at the time in college, which was like, you know, I don't know. I was a romantic. I wanted to be in love. I'd never really been in love, so I was like writing these movies about it that were, because you had to make a movie about something. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. Just over time, it was like with filmmaking, you can just fall into so many, and a lot of types of writing. You know, you can fall into so many different kind of dogmas about like how you need to make your writing more consequential, how you need to make it raise the stakes. You know, in drama and theater, it was always about fucking conflict, right? And like a movie like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is kind of in a really optimized kind of Hollywood movie, because it's like these characters almost, they're all, you know, you're just getting who they are so fast, and the story progresses so fast, and it's like the whole movie is like a chase scene, and, you know, the objectives are clear. Neil Page wants to get home. And Del Griffith is just kind of, he wants to get home too, but he's also kind of just like along for the ride, and he just wants to party and have a good time or whatever. And, but it's like the action is all kind of super streamlined. It's like every scene kind of moves it along. It has to. And I don't know, I just, you know, became less and less but these were the options, right? When I was a kid, this was basically what we thought of as movies. When we're at home for Thanksgiving or we're at Christmas, We're not watching Eric Romer films. We're not watching fucking Woody Allen films even. You know, we're watching you know, Trailer Park Boys. God bless them. Or I don't know. What's I mean, Spinal Tap was constantly on when I was a kid. I love Spinal Tap. You know, that's about as good as it gets, but what is it now? I mean, my dad was into Game of Thrones for a long time. He was just like obsessed with Game of Thrones. So anytime I'd go home, it was just like they're rewatching Game of Thrones again. Yeah, hold on just one second. There you go.
When are we gonna do anything?
All right, not right now. I have to work on this video. Okay. Good God, this is probably like the worst live stream I've ever done. Okay, that's okay. We'll keep going. We're gonna keep plowing ahead because that's just what you do. That's what fucking champions do. This is what fucking champions do. Okay, so I don't know. I just feel so like I've wasted my life and just so desperate. I just want to go back and tell myself, just believe in yourself and follow your own ideas. And I did, you know, I did make these films, but I don't know. It was just like my production value was so low. They were like Hal Hartley films. You know, that was the other kind of huge discovery. Well, I saw Faye Grimm during the pandemic, but we watched all these Hal Hartley films. We watched Ned Rifle and we watched Henry Fool to complete the trilogy. And then we also watched this movie, Trust. You got to see Hal Hartley. If you haven't seen, go on, if you have Criterion Channel, go, poets especially out there. Watch Henry Fool. I liked Faye Grimm. Hey, Maudie, Kundun, I liked it. I liked Faye Grimm. I mean, it's wildly out of character with the other films, kind of in a way. But it was a Bush era 9/11, post 9/11, and in that sense, it was kind of interesting and important. And I think it was the first one I saw. Actually, it was the only one that was. I think it was on Tubi or something. I watched it during the pandemic because I'd heard of Hal Hartley. My roommate Peter, shout out to Peter. He had told me about Ned Rifle in 2014 when it came out, and I remember him describing it to me, and I was like, this can't be a real movie. How is this real? It's about a garbage man who's like a poet. He wins the Nobel Prize in Literature. It's crazy. And, you know, so I knew who Hal Hartley was, and I actually have one of his book of drawings, weirdly enough, that I got from Eileen Miles, the poet, who had brought it to a reading and was giving it away. So I have this Hal Hartley book of drawings. So I knew who Hal Hartley was, and I'd seen Faye Grimm, but I mean, Henry Fool and Ned Rifle just blew our fucking minds because they just seem like they're about us. They seem like they're about these subversive kind of fringe. It's got a little bit of that blue collar because Henry is Simon Grimm, right, played by James Urbaniak. He's a garbage man, right? Like in Badlands, you know, like Kit in Badlands, right? He's a fucking garbage man. What's lower than that? It's actually a pretty good job, I've heard, as far as like union. Denzel Washington was a garbage man. He has a little thing about it on YouTube. But metaphorically, I mean, right, garbage man, right? We all know what that means. And then Henry Fool, who's this just kind of, we all kind of know, I mean, he's a grand character. He's like an Ignatius T. Riley. He's just this kind of Dionysian troublemaker. He's a Falstaffian catalyst. You know, he's larger than life. He enjoys kind of the finer things, wine, women, and song, cigars. He's got his confessions, which he keeps in these marble notebooks, right? And he's just writing these confessions. In the second movie, we find out they're all about Afghanistan and this and that, and he traveled the world and blah, blah, blah. He's a terrorist or something, which is a little bit convoluted and kind of cheating, I think. I don't know. It's interesting, but I think they kind of cheated those characters a little bit. Even though I love Faye Grimm, I love all of it. It's all amazing. But, you know, to be honest, his his cinematic style, you can tell he's a painter. His sense of composition, his sense of lighting. Um, you can tell he's a painter, or he started out as a painter. He's got that kind of touch and sense of things, framing and lighting and things. But sensitivity, originality. I mean, David Lynch started as a painter, right? A lot. Wim Wenders started as a painter. A lot of great directors start out as. I mean, Fellini was a cartoonist. That's basically the same thing. But they don't, they don't wear their budget. I think they said the Henry Fool movie cost like a few $100,000 or something. Maybe even the fucking last movie. I think Faye Grimm was produced by Mark Cuban. It was like a fucking Shark Tank. No, Hal Hartley was not on Shark Tank, but it was like an HD net thing, which was like a Mark Cuban. Early on, when they were just rolling out flat screens and shit, HD net was like, kind of a gourmet programming source. And they produced some Hal Hartley films, I guess. They produced God, maybe in the future everything will be a talk show or a TV show. Why not? That's a way of gamifying reality, right? Make it a talk show. You know how I just think it's annoying how in Saturday Night Live they have to turn every skit into a talk show. Like if they have an idea, it's like, oh, make it a talk show. That's what they always do. It's like Coffee Talk, Brooklyn Talk Morning Show, the Denise Show, the Adam Sandler show about his ex-girlfriend. It's always a fucking show. And you're like, why can't they just do a skit? Like, Kids in the Hall wouldn't do that. Kids in the Hall would just be like people in a living room. Not everything was a fucking show. Like SCTV or Saturday Night Live is like, Saturday Night Live, every fucking skit they turn, it's like the Denise Show, the Sassy Show, whatever that one was with Phil Hartman. Sassy, whatever the fuck that was. Sassy. That's one of the all-time great skits. They turn everything to... Maybe everything will become a show. Maybe everything will just be a fucking podcast in the future. Every conversation you have, you'll just record it. You'll vlog it. You'll gamify it. Maybe not all of them, but I don't know. For me, I definitely try to turn as much of my reality into art. Artainment. Artfotainment. Artfotainment, okay? It's informational, it's artistic, and it's entertaining. It's artfotainment. I don't know. There's a breaking down of these things that happen, like, quickly. Like Malick went from being somebody who used these kind of naturalistic improvisation techniques and kind of finding his movie in the editing room, right? That was, like, the big discovery. You could tell Badlands was, like, super scripted. He shot the script, he edited it, boom, it was done. Days of Heaven, right, famously, he shed most of the script. If you read the script, it's all there, right? I've looked at it. It's dense, I mean, Malick's scripts are fucking literature. If you can get your hands on a Terrence Malick script, do it, because it's totally worth reading. He went to Harvard, he translated like Heidegger and shit. Or was it Hegel? I don't even fucking know. That's how dumb I am. They have it at the Brooklyn Library. They have Malick's translation of whatever it is. I'm pretty sure. I've checked it out before. But Days of Heaven, you can tell they just shot, and Thin Red Line was sort of famous for the same thing. It's like they would just shoot 2 million feet of film just doing West. Fuck Sean Penn. We got to get this little piece of light in this parakeet over here. Sorry. I'm sorry, Woody Harrelson and Adrian Brody and all the A-list George Clooney. And Ryan Gosling. So Ryan Gosling, okay, Song to Song. You got to watch Song to Song. It makes me want to puke. It really is a millennial film. That's one of the remarkable things about Malick over the past decade is like he really has rushed in the contemporary moment. He went from doing every film was a period piece, right? Badlands took place in the 50s. Days of Heaven is like the late 1800s, early 1900s, whatever. Thin Red Line, World War II. New World, right, Jamestown, whatever. Or, John Smith, whatever. Uh, and then Tree of Life, he sort of comes into the moment, evolution, boom, right up. And then To the Wonder, right? It's like, I think he said he wanted to make a film that showed that these mythic kind of presences are very much alive in the modern kind of landscape. He wanted to film, because it looks like suburbia, right? It's like a fucking, kind of concrete subdivision cul-de-sac land, right? It's all cookie cutter. These MI homes that they just kind of throw up. Ben Affleck. I haven't seen that movie in a few years, but it looks like Oklahoma. I think it's Oklahoma somewhere, right? It looks like Walmart. But it's like he's trying to show. So it's interesting that he would go from period piece to boom, just like kind of the most banal contemporary, and that's kind of where Song to Song lives, right? It's Austin. He didn't shoot it in. It's about the music industry. He didn't shoot it in L.A. He didn't shoot it in Nashville even. He didn't shoot it in New York. And that was in 2012. I think they said he shot it. And at that time he could get any actor he wanted. So it's like his casts are just ridiculous. Natalie Portman's in it. Cate Blanchett. Val Kilmer has like a small role. Patti Smith is in the fucking movie. The way he uses musicians, the musicians are kind of the most interesting part of the movie, actually. Patti Smith and Iggy Pop. There's a scene with Iggy Pop. It looks just like the fucking alligator in Thin Red Line. The beginning of Thin Red Line starts on like this fucking alligator in like a swamp. And it looks just like Iggy Pop's torso. He looks like a lizard because he's so fucking real. These Hollywood actors, it's Michael Fassbender, who had just been in Inglourious Bastards and a bunch of other stuff, and Ryan Gosling, who at that time, I think, that was around the time of Drive and all that shit. And so it was like, it's very millennial. It looks like super banal, and it looks almost like all the clothes they're wearing are like super muted, and like they look like Special Forces chic almost. It's all dark. There's no music really in the fucking movie. None of them can play. Ryan Gosling, they play like a little, none of them can play music, which I think that's not what it was about. It was more like the little acting exercises and shit that they do. It was an interesting film. I don't know. It was very, like I said, it was very contemporary. It felt like of that moment, Malick, I think, made those choices on purpose to make it just trusting whatever that culture was rather than trying to impose his own vision of what it should be. Just allowing it to be what it was and kind of enter those circumstances. Like they filmed scenes at like South by Southwest and shit. It's like, let's get Rooney Mara. We'll throw up on stage with the fucking black lips. And, that is kind of what that era looked like, to be honest. Like, Likey Lee is in the fucking movie. And the way he weaves Patti Smith into the movie is so organic. It actually works. She doesn't necessarily have to act, but you feel like she is a part of their reality and part of their scene. She feels more real than they do. They all feel like these weird kind of sprites just frolicking around, running around, kind of just doing acting exercises, doing improvisations, which is fine, but it's like a fragmented mosaic. That's how I feel about a lot of his contemporary films. It's like they're almost like illuminated manuscripts. It's about the lighting. It's about the beauty of the moment and sort of finding, which is what vlogs are, which is what kind of a live stream is. It's just like you find a composition in the kind of flow and you hold it for a minute and there's some kind of beautiful, I don't know, poetic, transcendent magic is what you're looking for. Something that kind of, I don't know, makes life beautiful, makes life poetic. It's like a dance almost. It unlocks some of the energy. It unlocks some of the supernatural in a way. trying to capture that stuff. And the technology has arrived more and more so to allow us to do this. No longer is he shooting 2 or 3 million feet of film. He can shoot on digital video. You can shoot forever. It's less expensive, or it was. I'm not sure if it is anymore. But, he was enabled to find things, to write with the camera, right? I think before they did have to make sure, or at least for budgetary reasons, for technological reasons, they had to sort of write a recipe. We're going to, this is the story, this is what we're going to shoot. Malick, right, has a track record. He's kind of proven that he can do this. But it's a remarkably contemporary technique. It's almost just like making a movie up with your friends or something. I don't know. I guess people have been doing that since movies have been made. If you go back to silent movies, two-reelers and shit, that's what they would do. They would just go out to a park or something with a camera and some actors and just make it up, I don't know. Malick is somebody to me that sort of is able to get his dialogue is like poetry. I would love to read just kind of a transcription. Or I'd love to, supposedly he has these actors go in and just read 8 hours of voiceover. I'd love to just read whatever he's writing for them, because he does kind of capture that kind of inner voice. The way he uses voiceover, I think, is appropriate and innovative, something to look at. He's able to get this kind of sacred poetry. It feels like Rumi. His movies feel like these dervishes, these just kind of swirling. So, yeah, I don't know. It's films demand so much attention, but we are getting more and more into a visual literacy world, right? More and more YouTube, filmmaking, video making, these are becoming the native forms. Things like live streaming, improvising, making up films with your friends, making up content, making up fucking reels, making up TikTok videos, These are more and more a job, It's it's a tool of communication, for one thing, but it's also more and more a job. I mean, kids, this is, people, you make money, right? One of the things I'm seeing more is more and more they're using video to sell things. Apparently, the biggest thing on Instagram and YouTube now is shopping or TikTok. If you're an influencer, and I guess this is what all, the Kardashians or whoever, the Olsens, it's you get, you have all these people coming looking at your profile, boom. It's we'll get them on your shopping channel and get them buying this and this and this. I heard somebody say the other day, bands now are basically glorified traveling t-shirt salesmen. Everybody kind of, it's acknowledged that bands now make their money selling their merch, right? They buy the t-shirt, crazy enough, is the thing that's keeping it alive. And so, think about it. If you're an influencer, right, it's always promotion, paid promotion, people are offering, hey, can I advertise my thing on your profile? Can I do a paid promotion? It's well, why not just have your own fucking product? I mean, me, I don't know. I'm not good at. I need to be better at selling my stuff because I do have books. I should have a fucking t-shirt. There definitely should be an Easy Paradise t-shirt because I know probably some people would buy it. I'd like to have one. I should have made one last year. I could have sold a lot of them, but I just need to figure out how to make a fucking t-shirt because apparently we're all in the t-shirt business now. And I don't know what they're selling on their TikTok shopping channel. I don't know what your average influencer is selling. But if you want to buy my chat books or my real books, please just send me money at Shoyish on Venmo. Send me money. Send me money. And Yeah. So, but you know, my job. I'm a videographer, right? I've been a videographer since 2012. I never really, you know, my worst nightmare when I was like in middle school was to direct TV commercials. Like I thought in the you know, if there's no way I can be such a hack and such a failure and so untalented that like I end up directing TV commercials in Ohio or something. And now it's like how many of us would kill. Well, no, I don't direct TV commercials, but like I've my job is actually really interesting and I'm very lucky and grateful to have it because um you know, like I've been filming these art events and blah blah blah. So but part of it is, and part of what I just try to do is like, you know, I like doing it, and it is a form of filmmaking. And when you're doing videography, you do have to see everything that's on screen, so it trains your eye to see what's there. You know, that's part of visual literacy. Okay, which is something that I want to talk about today, because we're moving more and more into that culture of what is visual literacy, what does it mean. It's an exciting time for filmmaking and shit like that. Contrary to all of the Hollywood bullshit, I think with content creators and micro cinema and things like TikTok and Reels and YouTube, there is a lot of exciting, and streaming, you know, there's a lot of exciting things. And just the technology. You know, that everybody can have a fucking drone helicopter shot now, or a gimbal shot, or a Steadicam shot, or a this or that. And so, you know, that wasn't when I was making movies in fucking college. I bought a fucking wheelchair at the Ohio State Fair for $25 because we needed a dolly. You know, there was no way to get a moving camera shot with your fucking you know, mini DV camera. It was, I bought a fucking wheelchair. That thing was great, but every dolly shot was, you know, this height. Now it's like there's gimbals, you know, you get a fucking Steadicam on your phone. So I don't know. It's like I'd like to, you know, it's always been a goal to write a film with the script and make it, you know, which I've done a number of short films when I was younger, and that process just evolved. You know, when I started doing Scenes from Life, I had this script, A Field Study of the American Male, which I had written in like 2009 about trying to, you know, going out at night basically, and that what that life was like, you know, the frustration of that era of partying in V-necks, drinking PBRs at bodega. And it's sort of a life of a young poet. The guys are writers and this and that. It was a good script. And I was developing it with these guys from Stella Adler, and the guy said I needed basically a third act. He said the character wasn't developed enough. You know, in a certain way he was right, but I just wanted to do it. It was like, it would have been a really good 40-minute project, right? That was in 2014. And so rather than, I had done a play with these guys, I had done a couple plays, so it's like I kind of had my shit together in that department. I was still kind of able to function professionally before I became just like a raging drug addict. Just kidding. Or my technique evolved, let's say. Let's put it that way. And so my technique evolved and then, so the other idea I had, because I was going back and forth, you know, I always have autobiographical script ideas because I think life is interesting. And so one of the ideas was the character was going to be like vlogging his experience in the script. You know, he would film himself doing these things. And then, so I bought this fucking iPod Touch off Craigslist for $150. I met this guy over by Penn Station, or by Penn Station, and I just started filming, you know, out the way, because I was doing video professionally, so I'd learned how to edit, I'd learned how to use Final Cut and Premiere and this and that. And so I had, you know, that was honestly one of the biggest hurdles, you know, when you before digital and filmmaking your goddamn phone like CapCut and shit like that, you know, it was hard to even use Final Cut 7. To even figure out how to use it, you had to fucking upload tapes in real time manually. You know, so like you'd have to press record on the fucking computer and like play the tape on your camera and like log the tape, make sure there was no interruption, just like real film, you know? And then you'd have to split that into individual clips. It didn't necessarily split it, you know, like a fucking SD card. You put an SD card into a computer, it's like it clips everything out. It's a much more quick process. It's much less cumbersome. It's much less. There's much less physical things that can go wrong. Your fucking, you know, gears on your camera. You're rewinding. You know, the camera can stop working. Like the tapes can get all fucking. You know, I had all these tapes that were at my dad's house. You know, tapes from high school, irreplaceable stuff. You know, because we didn't have that many tapes. You know, they weren't expensive, but we were in high school. We didn't have any money. You know, we only had 9 VHS-C tapes like ever that we used. And they had 90 minutes on them if you used them on the lowest quality setting, which we did. There wasn't that much difference, but I had them out of my dad's garage, and my brother gave me a bag of them. Thank God he gave them to me a couple years ago. The Magic Baseball tape was in there. You know, otherwise we wouldn't have known where the Magic Baseball was. Somehow, thank God, we recovered the Magic Baseball. But the other tapes had been eaten by rats. Literally, the tape had been chewed in half and, like, split. So, like, I could probably reconstitute those tapes if I, like, repaired the actual physical tape and taped it back together and played it through the VHS-C to VHS, you know, playhead, to my VCR, to my digital converter. But, I mean, it was literally chewed by rats. Like, digital storage is precarious in its own way, but, I don't know, things were a lot more just kind of labor intensive to just get it even going, you know what I mean? There were so many things that could go wrong. Now I mean, thank God, that's what made it possible for me. You know, I'm such a lazy person that I just gave up. Eventually, I was just like, you know what, my movies look like shit. They're too expensive. I can't make them look the way I want them to look. The color, you know, the sound is terrible. I had no sound equipment whatsoever. I always use just like the in-camera sound, which at the time, you know, like there's wind, you know, tons of that in the soundtrack. And so I was just, that was like right before DSLR. You know, the DSLR came in and really fucking changed filmmaking. And then the iPhone, right? But the DSLR made it possible to make like a film quality film suddenly for like practically nothing. Which you weren't, I mean, I paid $600 for a fucking VHS mini DV camera. And it was cool for what it was, but nobody was going to mistake. The thing is, I didn't know how to embrace the lo-fi. You know, like, that's the thing that, like, that's what made me just give up. Is I didn't know how to sell that. You know, the goal was, like, to make some kind of short film that's going to go to fucking Sundance or something. Or, like, make your name as a filmmaker. And, I don't know. It just didn't feel like that was really, But in retrospect, I'm like, you know, my films were... Here, I'm going to go to this other... I'm going to go to my blog. Oh, God. Why am I talking about all this? Well, because the Thanksgiving Film Festival. And, just the crossroads. I mean, filmmaking, the point being, like... So... For the past decade, you know, I quit around 2009, but I got a job as a videographer in 2012. And, you know, since then, that's what I've kind of, you know, I don't make really a living, but my income is from that, really. And, I don't know, like vlogging is what we call it now, as you know, it's sort of a comedic pejorative, but I think it's, you know, the other thing was the writer strike, right? Like uh, this is something I saw on TikTok was you know, the last thing that people on TV that people really were obsessed with was Secession, and there hasn't been anything since then. That was like, you know, what, 6 months ago, or you know, kind of like a year ago, whatever. Um, because of the writer strike, right? They there was a huge break where no one was could write anything new because they couldn't produce anything new because of the strike. So I think maybe that's one reason YouTube maybe sees their moment and sees like this place went out of business like a few days after this. I'm glad I filmed in there, but that really sucks. So I love this place and I was like relying on it financially for existence, but R.I.P. Munchies. um, I'm not sure why I filmed. Oh, the sign was funny. I think it had some funny shit on it. This is me waiting outside of Soho Playhouse open mic. I go to Soho Playhouse open mic every week, and I'm like, I can't go in. I can't, cause I'm like, I know I'm gonna be there super late. And I'm just like, I'm just always in that part of town at that time. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I think YouTube might see that as like their opportunity for like, you know, they should seize on that. Original creators. I think, you know, the vacuum left by Hollywood, or one reason why Hollywood makes all these CGI superhero kind of myths of the modern world, they're all trying to make Star Wars big bank, but that leaves a place for real life, right? And that to me, the vlog is an investigation of that. It's a dramatization, but in a low key way, you know, filming this filming life, there are things that happen, there are moments of conflict or drama or whatever, but it's like most of it is just kind of, I don't know, it's about just like appreciating it. It's pleasant, soaking it in, learning. Okay, so this, I went to this Jay-Z exhibit at Brooklyn Public Library, right? They have fucking Jay-Z's poetry papering the fucking library. And I like Jay Z, so I thought, you know, and I love, you know, so I thought, let me go and learn about this Brooklyn poet, and you know, it's a free exhibit and shit, so you know, I thought, what the hell? I like that song, Money Cash Hose. I got kind of deeper, you know, I didn't really used to like Jay Z, but I got kind of deeper into, I like The Streets Is Mine, or whatever that is, and the city, whatever that song it is about, the city is ours. You know, he's got some, he's, you know, Jay Z. I mean, he's, you know, there you go. He's at the Brooklyn Public Library. He's being you know, legitimized. He's being institutionalized before our very eyes. Well, I don't know. He also kind of casts this weird shadow over that part of Brooklyn because, you know, when I first moved here, it was like when the Brooklyn Nets were first imported from New Jersey and when Barclays was built. You know, and there was some positive, you know, it felt like celebrity hype, like, oh, Jay Z, Beyonce, like, oh my God, the MTV VMAs are gonna be here, and fucking Kevin Garnett is here, and you know, it's this fucking kind of like, the stadium looked like fucking LCD sound system, or it looked like natural wine, or it looked like, you know, some kind of Williamsburg fucking stadium or something, and it's like, what did people really sign on for? You know, that was a huge gentrification thing, and what has happened to Brooklyn over the last 20 years, I think people should question and look at, you know, as being a huge real estate scheme, and you know, I don't know, colonization or something maybe. Like they kicked a bunch of people out and took their land, and I don't know. This is the studio they recorded his shit in, so it's got, you know, synthesizers and shit. It's just amazing, you know. As a musician, right? I wanted to check this out. The wedding of music and poetry, and these are the tools, right? This is what they fucking use to make, you know. Because I do respect and I look at rappers as poets, and I think they are writing some of the most advanced, if not the most advanced verse in forms and shit. And they're magicians, they're wizards, and I don't know. I identify more with people from the streets, I guess, even though I should just go into academia as soon as possible. If I had any fucking brains whatsoever, I'd get my shit together and get into a college. But I don't know. There's something about doing it on the street and doing it in the clubs and doing it at open mics, and so I don't know. The rap game is kind of a corollary to that. Um, Although I don't know. I do think they're gonna have to come up with something more newer. Like rap is what, like 50 years old. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop or something. I think this year, right? There's celebrations and stuff, which is amazing. It's amazing. It's one of I heard somebody say the other day it was the world's most popular art form, which might be true, actually, which is kind of incredible for poetry. Like there's a lot of hardcore fucking poets out there, like fucking it, writing amazing shit. I was listening to this song, "Fuck It, We Ball," right? That's a rap lyric, right? You want your shit to pop like that as a poet. And they're the best at it. And thinking about the relationship of the collage like aspect and working with samples, working with machines rather than guitar, bass, drums, that kind of thing. Where I grew up, the concept of a band was, guitar, bass, two guitars, bass, and drums. That was, you know, that was the default. That was most bands, you thought that's what it was going to be. And over the last 15 years, that has evolved so much, from everything has changed, right? Sample, loop station pedals, and so thinking about how lyric poetry interacts with the different soundscapes and how they're created and stuff, and people with so this is, oh god, I'm trying to legitimize vlogs as a form of filmmaking. I've been doing this for a while, but I don't know. I guess I'm trying to come to terms with just being like, I don't know, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Like, I need to pull my shit together and put it into some kind of big project, or I don't know. I like vlogging. Is it impressive enough? Not really. I don't know. Oh yeah, I did want to talk about Bill Maher's sort of. I know I want to talk about Club Random, right? Because Tim Heidecker is constantly referencing Club Random. And if you use YouTube, chances are, I know that I get it. Maybe I'm alone in this, but chances are you get suggested videos about Club Random with Bill Maher. And so I just want to talk about that for a minute because, it's obviously cheesy as fuck and corny, but I think what is interesting about it is I do think Bill Maher has a history of he's kind of a TV show creator, like Chuck Barris or something. He has kind of a sense of that, like I was saying earlier about how everything is being turned into a TV show. It's like the first time I remember seeing Bill Maher was Politically Incorrect, right, in the 90s. And that was an interesting format. I'm not necessarily sure that he, it's sort of like the McLaughlin Group, I guess, or something like that. Maybe I should turn up the lights. But it's like, it was an interesting crossfire. He'd always have different guests. So you'd have, you have George Carlin on, or Gene Simmons, or Arsenio Hall, or, Hillary, or whoever, and it was always different people, Ariana Huffington. And, I think it was on every night, or Tough Crowd was like the same show with Colin Quinn. And it was like a conversation. His shows have always been kind of conversation-based and sort of debates, and he's always been political, and, sort of that's, you know, the news is kind of his subject matter. But that went off the air, right, famously after 9/11. Then he did Real Time, right, which is, you know, I'm not sure exactly what the fuck it is about Real Time that makes it distinct, other than it's on HBO. I mean, I guess the hook of Real Time is that it's like it's real. He can say whatever the fuck he wants. You know, it's like different segments. It usually starts with like a monologue, like Politically Incorrect started with a monologue. Then he has like usually a one-on-one. Then he has like his panel, which is sort of like Politically Incorrect. Then he does like new rules or whatever. Um, so it's like it's more kind of like a talk show melded with like the Daily Show, I guess, or something. I don't know that one, but that show has been on for a long ass fucking time. I don't know. Bill Maher, I don't love the guy, but he occupies this place in our culture where it's like he's managed to be like the political comedian for like the last 30 fucking years. That's sort of stayed on TV the whole fucking time. And so I think it has to do more with like his presentation almost. You know, like he likes doing live shows. He works hard on his jokes. He's up to speed with slang and kind of, you know, he's friends with Fran Lebowitz. So it's like he's kind of he loves talking shit. You know, he loves, you know, shooting the breeze and kind of, he loves hashing it out with people and that's his kind of form. You know, now we're in this podcasting age, this streaming age, right? So when, you know, they post their fucking clips to YouTube and shit. They post real-time clips to YouTube and shit. So I'm sure he's been tracking that. Then during the pandemic, he did the show from his house, right? He did a few, because he was famously like not, he wanted out of the fucking quarantine and this and that. He wanted his show back and his audience back and this and that. He wanted out of his house. But I think he saw, now he's got this Club Random show, right? Which is, I think it's like, it's in his fucking rec room. You know, he's famous because he likes smoking weed too, right? He's like kind of a famous, and the premise, I guess, of it is it's like off the cuff. It's like it's sort of him trying to do like a Rogan podcast. It's off the record almost. You know, it's like he's in his basement. They're smoking pre-rolls with Gene Simmons, and so he'll get, you know, big Hollywood guests. So it's like he can move. It's like it's not HBO. Right? He's moving into YouTube. It's his YouTube show. It's his podcast, but it's a video stream. This is what I'm saying about Bill Maher. I'm not talking about his politics or anything like that. I'm just saying this was our last video live stream. This is what it's going to be like on Thursday. We're going to show the vlogs behind us and read in front of it. So it's going to be a cool... Honestly, this is my favorite performance that I've done, probably. Is like this format. So I'm hoping that people come out to this because it's actually going to be, you know, kind of the way it's intended to be presented. The film poems of Scenes from a Life. You know, you're meant to have the soundtrack with it. So yeah, this Club Random thing, right? Everybody's jumping on this bandwagon, this kind of video. Rudy Giuliani, right? There was this article the other day, I think in New York Magazine, about Giuliani's sad end. He spends his days sad, alone in his townhouse on the Upper East Side, vodcasting. He's basically doing what I'm doing. He's live streaming. Which, I don't think that that's sad. I mean, fuck him. I don't care about him. It's like, it's just talk radio. It's just AM radio. It's a form of broadcasting, right? This is the gamification, the showification of our reality, and everything is going to be a show now, and an interview, and an exclusive, and a man on the street, and so I don't know. I think your presentation, right? He's got the lights, he's got the design of the posters for the Club Random thing. He's got big guests. The audio's good. So it's like, that's kind of what we're trying to do with Kuzu Daddy in the basement. We're trying to create a Club Random like atmosphere. I mean, that's what this is. This is basically my Club Random. I mean, nobody's watching. It's cold outside. Is everybody out? So the open mic last night, it went pretty well. I mean, after the holiday weekend, it was Thanksgiving, so I did kind of anticipate, people had been with their family, or I don't know. I know I'd been basically in hibernation. We'd had the film festival, which, to me, it's like it's part of my job, and it's part of you get as much out of films as you get out of music as you get out of literature. The really great films. Some of the greatest artists of our day are filmmakers. Obviously, but it is sort of this totally overpowering art form. That's part of what I'm trying to dress down with my vlogs. They're meant to be ignorable or sort of ambient. They're not meant to be fascist movie where it just controls everything you're thinking, and the thing I was trying to learn in screenwriting class is the movie is like this emotional Rube Goldberg machine where you're trying to create an effect with the audience and make them feel something, and where they are at all times. How much information they know, and then this triggers this, and then this guy gets killed, and you go, oh my god, I didn't think that guy was going to get killed. This is, so I don't really want to do any of that. I just want people to vibe. It's just vibes, and thinking. It's food for thought. It's topical. I think TV and film, visual literacy, it is a fascist way that Michael McClure has a line about how it blows out your third eye, it obliterates your third eye, and I do kind of believe that. I mean, that's why I'm just trying to show reality, because I want people to see their own lives. I just want to, try to help people wake up and sort of refresh and like look more closely at their own experience in their own day, minute to minute presence and things. Not escapist, right? It's not looking away, looking at what is, not looking at conspiracy, not looking at fantasy, not looking at CGI or hypothetical, looking at what really is, what's around us, what's happening moment to moment, the people we know, and trying to create beauty and joyful moments, and sort of a Jules et Jim highlight reel celebrating the joie de vivre of La Tourbillon, the wheel of life. Jules et Jim, that's sort of like a vlog. The beginning of that movie, just talking about, that's just what I wanted to live. The beginning of Jules et Jim, where they're poets and they're, translating each other, and, they're just bohemians around Paris and shit in their youth, whatever. Gets complicated though, economics and relationships and, oh yeah, yeah, so I don't know. It's like the forms are evolving before our eyes because the technologies are evolving, and so I don't know. It's kind of fun to work in different things, and I don't know. I guess everybody. I mean, I don't know. Comedians and things, I see them, they're already doing this. They already all have video podcasts, and they're editing the video podcast for Reels on Instagram, and they're subtitling it, and they're taping their routines in clubs with nice cameras, and they're editing that. A lot of comedians are like programmers and shit. They make, or they're finance people. They have money. They have money saved up, or they made a good living or something. So it's like, they're like, and a lot of them are very like capable, right? That's how they get those jobs. It's how they get that money, is like they are exceptionally capable people. They get paid $300,000 a year to be software developers or whatever, because not that many people can do that, right? And so, fucking editing of Instagram reels, not that hard for them. I look at myself and I'm just like, what? I can barely, this is the best I can do. I work my ass off to even live my life the way that I live it. you know, which is extremely part-time. You know, it's like I go to a few open mics a week. I kind of dribble some lines down at, you know, at a somewhat, you know, I try to push myself to write a little bit, but this is the most writing that I'll do, I would say, is like these live streams where it's like, this is, instead of journaling, I'll sit down and keep this up for 2 hours. Um, that's my contemporary visual literacy Bill Maher space. Trying to adopt. I don't know. It was a huge mistake for me. Well, I don't know. Like, I don't think I made like a pivot to comedy. There was never any. The thing is, I've just been so fed up with the way I've been treated in poetry world. This is what's really on my mind. It's just like I've never been embraced in poetry world. No one has ever really gone out of their way to help me or make me feel good or even like welcome. You know, usually I'm greeted at readings with kind of suspicion. Maybe I have a violent presentation or an angry presentation or a scary presentation, or, you know, I was looking at some of my chapbooks today and I was startled by some of the language. My open mic chapbook. But you know, I don't know. We were talking yesterday about publishing houses have like these sensitivity readers now, right? They hire somebody to read manuscripts for them to make sure. I feel like my stuff is like probably designed for the opposite of that. You know, I don't know. I'm not trying to like hurt anybody's feelings or anything. Um, so yeah, it's just like I don't really know where to go in poetry world, to be honest. It just feels like uh well, that's kind of a dumb way to look at it. I mean, it's just like you just feel like you're drowning in the rat race, in the competition, or the, you know, I don't know if everybody looks at this way. Maybe this is just my unhealthy way of looking at things. And I should be better about supporting other people and being happy for other people's success and just enjoying other people. You know, I do enjoy other people's work. Um, but I also do find like my tastes are at odds. And if I'm threatened or if somebody gets some like a lot of attention or something that I'm not getting, then there probably is some resentment there toward them if I don't feel like they're good, or, you know, if I don't, you know, if I don't think that they're outstanding or something. There's a lot of things that I like that, you know, are not. I've always felt that. You know, that was why I moved to New York, right? Because I felt like in Ohio, I was just like I was just at odds with everybody there as far as my sensibility. Maybe that's just an excuse. It is just an excuse, you know. Like maybe I'm just not good at. Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. You know. I don't know how to like tame my style into something that reasonable people would accept. I feel like I would probably have to stop smoking. You know, like that's something I've been thinking about recently. It's kind of a common thread with a lot of people who are successful is they're sober. You know I could get a lot more done. I'd be better at communicating with people. I'd be less afraid of things. I don't know. You know, I didn't really even start smoking till I was like 30 almost. So I don't know. Is that smoking is probably what enables my process to be, you know, for me to think that it's reasonable. Like these things all seem like a good idea at the time. You know, probably because you just got high or whatever. Not because they're good ideas. But at the same time, I don't know. There's certain things that I do feel like need to be pushed through and shown, like this, right? I put a couple of my stand-up acts in this video, and they were not good. They were probably the worst sets I've ever done. These are the worst. I mean, the audiences were not good. But that only made it worse. You just start a downward spiral. You know, if the audience doesn't start, and so one of recently, a lot of times I'm on stage, I think I'm saying something that's going to be funny, and it just has no effect. It just doesn't land, right? And you do have to kind of come to terms with, like, okay, that wasn't funny, or that didn't work, or that poem wasn't any good, or that like, what's really hard is when you prepare something and then it doesn't work. I can accept if I go into a performance and I really didn't prepare anything and I'm just kind of reading, and it, I'm always surprised that audiences don't like me more than they do. Actually, I'm baffled by it. I really am. Um, and I mean, I feel like what I'm doing is wildly at odds with what's going on in most, like, New York City poetry culture, and that's kind of the point. Maybe not necessarily New York City, but just like poetry culture in general is like, I'm looking at these chapbooks and I'm just like, what was I doing? What am I doing with this? And it's not like the purpose is to flout the obedient schools or whatever is happening in, but it's like, I don't know, this is my frustration with all of the arts, like with the comedy thing, with poetry, is like with film, is like, it just feels like you have to pour yourself into these structures that people really understand, Hollywood style, Billy Collins, Charles Simic fucking style. Uh, Even the people that are like avant-garde now, they basically just write this kind of smooth prose lines and shit. There's nothing. I mean, maybe being fragmented is 20th century, but I don't know. I sped all my shit up and broke it all to pieces a few years ago because that's how I felt the world was. If you look at my vlogs, which are my prime filmmaking expression, they're fragmented, and they are a bunch. It's not about smooth transitions. It's not about fade ins and fade outs and wipes or dissolves. I never use any of that shit. I don't use any kind of processing whatsoever. I never even use titles anymore. I don't even use music. I basically put my fucking camera roll into a timeline and upload it. I don't really do a whole lot of intermediary anything. And I don't know. That's an aesthetic. There is an intention behind that, I guess. But it also just feels right. It does feel like it kind of works for me. If I were to put fade ins or dissolves or anything into that, that would look insane. It really wouldn't work. It would be, a lot of that stuff can feel artificial to me, just like setup punchline, just like, I don't know, the way, just most poetry voice that I hear. And so a lot of my intention is just to find things that aren't that. I'm trying to find syntactual journeys and word combinations that I've never heard before, that are not going according to normal, and expressing the true path of things. That to me is what lyricism is about, is like just how the body actually says it, not necessarily. We watched Bright Lights Big City, the film with Michael J. Fox, the adaptation of McInerney. So I mentioned this at the open mic last night, and somebody at the open mic had painted Jay McInerney's house in the Hamptons. And I don't know. None of the jokes I was saying were landing. This is what I'm talking about. It's just like, I don't know. I'm not as funny as I think I am or something. I don't know. What am I good at? I'm almost 40. I flamed out as a poet. My comedy career went nowhere. My filmmaking is a joke. My YouTube account has 243 subscribers, which is great. I love that. I love that. I mean, I'm having a blast, but I can't, it doesn't pay the bills. It'd be great if I was like, 7 years old or something. Yeah, Bright Lights, Big City is about. It's a good film. It's got that. It's got visually. It's nice. That's what I look for in movies now. I'm not necessarily looking for some kind of like we're looking at all these movies on Criterion Channel, and it's like this shit it's all feels very heavy. I've never heard any of these movies. I don't want to watch this. I want to watch Barfly with Mickey Rourke. The Charles Bukowski movie. I like literary adaptations where they visualize kind of like a famous, but also kind of niche, like having a Charles Bukowski movie directed by Barbet Schroeder. Robbie Mueller, the cinematography is incredible. It's all these gaslight neon signs of all these bars in LA in the fucking 80s and shit. Mickey Rourke looks like shit in this movie. He really looks bad. But it's like I just watch it to have sort of visual material, visual reference matter for these kind of literary subjects, which typically you got to imagine in your mind's eye or whatever. So I love that kind of stuff. I love the Leonardo DiCaprio movie about Rambo. Any kind of, the Basketball Diaries. I still haven't seen that. I got to watch that. But Bright Lights, Big City, I've never seen before. And it's sort of like, I guess, Ashley hit me to the fact that Jay McNerney was friends with Bret Easton Ellis in college. They knew each other in college somehow. I mean, I guess they're pretty similar. They just magnetized towards each other. They were so like. But they had a falling out, I guess. But Bright Lights, Big City is almost like American Psycho without the serial killing or something. I read it when I was in college. I remember enjoying it. I read Jay McNerney's 9/11 novel, too. I don't remember what it was called. Brightness Falls, or maybe that was a different one. He was one of the last people that had that. Bright Lights, Big City was the closest thing to The Great Gatsby. He was the last person, or one of the last people I feel like to have that kind of like literary New York, white guy. The whole movie's about cocaine. The whole fucking movie. They're just looking for a place to do cocaine. They do too much cocaine, so they buy a ferret. It's insane. Jason Robards is great in it. I thought the casting of Jason Robards was chef's kiss. Great casting. Because it takes place at the New Yorker. That's one of the reasons why I think it's worth watching. It's like, it's got this amazing office with all these desks and books. It's a pre-computer office, right? They shot it in the 80s, but I'm sure for the 80s that office was even old-fashioned. And it's modeled on the New Yorker. Jay McNerney, I guess, worked at the New Yorker. It's a fact checker, which that shows what they know if they hired that fucking coke addict as a fact checker. They should have known what was going to happen. But that's what was New York about it. Kiefer Sutherland's in it. They're just tooling around town doing blow. It's like American Psycho. They're at all these clubs. They're at Tunnel. They're all in a bathroom stall or whatever. It's like Cocktail. It's just party. They're partying their fucking balls off. The whole movie. It's nuts, He lives off in West Village off 7th Ave, of course. He's got this apartment. It's just, it's a bygone era. It looks almost, that was 40 years ago, But it's a period piece almost at this point. But I liked it. I thought it was a good, it wasn't, didn't necessarily, it wasn't any kind of like transcendent masterpiece. It was a solid film, I recommend it. Yeah, so this vodcast that I'm doing today, I'm just kind of rehashing all the video matter that I. So if you're gonna be with your relatives over the holidays, and you know that's up to you. um, why not watch? You know, so me, I like to hit the sweet spot between pretentious, intellectual, cerebral. I think I'm a great person to be in cuffing season with because I will program, you know, like these were all smart films that we watched, but they're also kind of pop and kind of fun. And, you know, like Albert Brooks, we'd watch some Woody Allen films. So Albert Brooks is kind of an interesting counterpoint to that, where he was a stand up who became an auteur, but his films are not quite as personal, or I don't know. I guess they're not as uh, I don't know. He just kind of lets things play out more. You know, he just kind of lets the scene kind of play out more. Woody Allen feels like he cuts more and edits more and throws music in more and voice, you know, this and that. Albert Brooks is, it's almost like a comedy record. It's almost like you're listening to a comedy record, like come to life. It's like all these, you know, he's calling his girlfriend on the phone and then hanging up, and but it develops like a movie story, you know, like uh what the hell else did we watch? I needed to, yeah, you got to watch the Hal Hartley films about Simon Grimm. So, okay, the joke of the third film, and I didn't know about this, right? Uh Simon Grimm is he sort of becomes a poet because of Henry Fool. Henry Fool is just this catalyst, you know, he's this wild man. He just, everybody just kind of comes to life around Henry Fool. And so Simon Grimm kind of starts writing this poem, which eventually gets published in the first film, and he wins the Nobel Prize in Literature. You know, it's highly far-fetched, to say the least. But anyway, in the second film, he's put in jail, and the third film, you know, we don't know where Simon Grimm is, and so there is this kid who's in all the movies. Aiden, what's his name? Liam Aiken. He's in Lemony Snicket, I guess. He's like a famous child actor. He kind of looks like Haley Joel Osment, but he's a good actor. He's like probably the best part of the movie, honestly. It's a great movie. Ned Rifle might be, I mean, Henry Fool and Ned Rifle are great films. You got to see these films. Faye Grimm I liked, but it's kind of its own thing. And so Aubrey Plaza is in Ned Rifle. They added Aubrey Plaza. She plays a grad student who's like obsessed. Well, I won't spoil it, but she's obsessed with Simon Grimm and Henry Fool and all of them. And so they're all trying. So at the beginning of the movie, the kid, Henry Fool's kid, Ned Rifle, he's Christian. He's super religious. He hunts down his uncle Simon at, he lives in this SRO basically on the Lower East Side, which this hotel is there, but I'm not sure if it's actually an SRO, and I'm sure it's very expensive, but the character's got money, so he probably could live there. But it's just interesting because it's New York. The first movie, Henry Fool, is Ridgewood, Queens, or it's Jackson Heights, Queens. But they don't really play up the New Yorkness of it. Even though it takes place in New York and it's about a poet in New York and this, they don't really shoot the typical, you know, it's all Queens, and it could really be anywhere. It could be Jersey or Cleveland for that matter. It's in a basement apartment. It's just like a house, you know. It doesn't look like New York, really. But in this, he's like in this fucking rooming house on the Lower East Side. And so they find him there, and he's like, so they find this guy, Simon Grimm, the poet, and they're asking him, you know, what have you been doing? You know, what have you been up to? And he's like, you know, I don't write poetry anymore. I'm a stand-up comedian now. And they're like, oh my God, you know what? You're a stand-up comedian. Where do you do that? You like go out in clubs and do that? And he's like, no, I do it on my weekly video blog on the internet. He does stand-up comedy on his weekly video blog. So we turn to each other as we're watching this, and we're like, oh my God. How did this movie know this? You know, it was made in 2014. It predicted our lives. How did it predict our lives? Here's me doing stand-up comedy, by the way. The first set, I wasn't that high. This set, I was high. So I thought I killed on this set, but I may have just been crazy. I don't know. When you're high, you kind of lose you kind of black out a little bit. And so you don't really remember. I gotta cut my hair. I feel like I need a makeover. I don't know. It's like, with the Easy Paradise thing, every week is just like another, it's just like, I'm starting to think about what is the future of this and what is the goal of it. I love having a weekly show downtown. The show is what I want it to be, but at the same time, I do feel like people overlook the fact that it's a show. In the sense, and so that's what's like frustrating about it to me. And I guess like The Emperor's New Clothes or something, because it's like the point for me of doing it is to put on like just like a huge art happening that changes people's lives, and is this incredible, almost like overwhelming spectacle with just like so many fucking talented people and things that happen that it's just like, oh my God, I just wanted to be like this parade, this overwhelming festival of just like riches and art and life and characters, a gallery of characters and the city and all of the art forms, swirling together and influencing each other and melding and bouncing off each other and combining and swirling and cooking, the ingredients together. And but at the same time, it does feel like people just look at it like it's an open mic. And they don't even give a fuck that it's a show. They just want to get up on stage in front of a bunch of people. And so it's like, well, that's not really why I'm doing it. It's like, and then when I book a show, nobody shows up. When I do these shows at Young Ethel's, or, it's especially frustrating doing these readings and shit, like this show on Thursday at the library. I don't think anybody's going to come to this. The last reading we did at the library, like almost nobody came. And so it's like, it's free. It's at this great location. I don't know what else I could do. I could promote it better, I guess. I could promote it more in advance. That's a mistake I make every time. But, it also just sucks that nobody comes out. And so I'm like, well, once again, it's like, is my only talent the fact that I'll go out of my way to put these people on stage? And is that all they're really seeing? Is that all they mean by you're a great host? It just means like, oh, thanks for putting me in front of 30 people. It's like, that's cool, but like, that doesn't mean I'm actually good at anything. And so, in my eyes, it's like a variety show. It's like a talk show, except it's 4 hours long and we have 35 guests instead of, an hour long and 3 guests or whatever. And it's more just pure performance, right? It's just, and it's everything. It's not just a skits or music or this, or it's everything. And so to me, it's like a total circus. It's a total art. It's a total work. It's an opera, and just every fucking thing is in it. I look at it on those terms. I look at it as like, what's different about this than America's Got Talent? What's different about this other than we don't judge people and the production value and shit. And so for me, it's like, kind of, that is my goal. My goal is like, hey, I love putting a show on every week in Manhattan and filming it and being able to broadcast it on the internet and, and meet people and show their work. And I like to say my piece. I like to think that registers with people, the stuff that I do at the beginning or the end, and even the things I do in between, the little introductions or quips or ad libs or whatever they may be. I'd like to believe that people see, the themes, the music that I use. That's all part of, in my head, what makes it like, just like any other show, just like the Tonight Show, just like the fucking late night, just like, we could, obviously I'm not producing that much original content every week, and my performances are kind of haphazard and half-assed. and could be more rehearsed and more written and more cooked. I don't know how to do that, actually. Uh, it feels like the more I do that, the worse it gets. And so with this, I can at least, go bigger. Um, the idea is if you don't really give people the whole picture, there can be something beyond it. You're allowing a disembodied phantom kind of beyond the limit to be possible, to be things there that you aren't showing in the connections and in the kind of insinuations you're making. Um, so I don't know. It is just an open mic. And so but it requires a lot of work, and I could be better about going to other people's stuff. It's like, I mean, I need to make a living somehow eventually. I'm at a place in my life where I'm kind of just like, I appreciate the situation that I'm in to enable me to do this, but I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do it in this situation. And so I do need to start to think about long term. And, am I really going to host an open mic every week for the next fucking, 5 years or something? It's like the idea, not to use this as like a stepping stone to something, but it's like the idea was to sort of get big. I'd like to be able to tour. I'd like to be able to, actually have a fucking audience. Am I actually building an audience, or am I just building like this sort of like reciprocal, hey, I want to be on your stage, so, I'm going to come to this thing. It's like there are definitely people that see from the open mic that see what I'm doing and become interested in it. And so in that sense, it is the best way I've had ever of building an audience. I mean, my YouTube page has gotten a lot more subscribers, and people are starting to, people do buy my books. People are really good about that. I do appreciate that a lot. They are interested. I ran into Moises last night. He said he didn't have my books. He said a bunch of people he knew had my books. I was shocked, so I gave him a couple because he's so generous. I do just want to, that is the most important thing for me, is just to exist as an artist in the world and in people's eyes however I can. So I want to get my books out to people. I want to get my vlogs out to people. I want to get my streams out to people, my system lord, whatever it can be. I'd like to go on tour and take that to people, and I'm proud of what the open mic has done already. It's already been an amazing experience, and I will continue to do it, as long as there's 30 plus people coming out a week. This was my goal. The whole time in New York, my goal was to get a weekly show at a venue. It's like I couldn't imagine a better, situation than what I have, really. I'd like to maybe, it'd be, unless I had just like a show that people came out to, which to me, to be honest, I don't really care. I like putting a bunch of people on, actually. That's fun for me. I would love it if I did a 2-hour fucking reading, like on Thursday that I'm doing at the library, if 50 people came out to see what I'm doing and loved what I'm doing, and people are lined up to get in. I don't know why people don't react that way to what I do. In my head, it just feels like there's no fucking way to get ahead. There's no way to win. There's no way to win is how it feels, I go up on stage and I do things that I think are going to hit with people, and then they don't seem impressed. So I don't know what else to do, So like the open mic is the best way for me to just like be a part of the community in sort of a way. I can just go there every week. People come there. I'd like to be more out there and more, doing shows everywhere all the time. There hasn't been quite a reciprocal relationship with that. The open mic didn't quite take me to other places like I thought it would. It just, I thought people would invite me from that room to other places, and they didn't really. So it's just like, I'm proud of what it's been already. You know, if I could even do it, my goal is to kind of do it through the spring and to just see what happens. You know, the goal was to get some kind of press coverage. You know, to get the New York Times or somebody to write about it, so people would know. You know, so people would go down the pipeline of Matt Proctor content. You know, they'd write about it in the New York Times or whatever. Thanks to K. Hank Jost for fucking writing an article about it in the New Haven Independent for our review. That's what, you know, that's what I'm looking for. So people read the New York Times and say, who this is Matt Proctor guy. And then they check out my YouTube page, and then they check out my live streams, and then they check out my chat books, you know. It doesn't feel like I can go the MFA route. It doesn't feel like, you know, I mean, I just don't think that Poetry World is going to, they don't want to book me, you know? They're not looking for people like me right now. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to make, you know, a name for myself and a place for my work in sort of a common space. It's a great platform to do it, so I'm very appreciative even for that, you know? I'm just stoked to even have a weekly show I can go to every week, and 40 people are going to be there. I mean, that's insane, you know? In Manhattan, New York City, I mean, it's a dream come true. You know, I'd like to get better cameras in there, better sound, so I have higher quality videos for the internet. Maybe that would give it a bigger audience. You know, I mean, I know that this little thing, you know, this is the camera I use, the Canon FS10. My mom bought it at a library book sale for like $10. And I'm pretty sure it was manufactured in like the year 2001. So I need to upgrade clearly, but you know, it's been fun to do. You know, at a certain point, it's I'd like to, like, maybe, I don't know, I'd like to get more serious about doing film stuff and writing for that. You know, I love doing the vlogs, and I do feel like the vlogs are like kind of a valid cinematic expression for me. And I like them just as, you know, if I could get paid $20 million to do a vlog, I'd do that, you know. If I could get paid $20 million to just do what I'm doing, I would do that. I wouldn't change anything, actually. But I feel like a failure, and I make no money, and I live in Midwood by the grace of Kuzu Daddy. Thank God for him. You hear him in the basement practicing with his microphone? He practices all week. That's why he's good. Because he's downstairs fucking practicing all week. Oh, yeah, I do want to expose the Colbert PSYOP, okay? The greatest trick the devil ever pulled, or I think one of the greatest rebrands of our lifetime, is Stephen Colbert. You know, the guy's name is not Colbert. It's Colbert. It's Stephen Colbert. I mean, do the other people in his family pronounce it as Colbert? Maybe they do. I suppose it, you know, whatever. But it's Stephen Colbert. That's a good rebrand. That's I don't know. That's what everybody's. I don't know. I don't know how to get ahead. I don't know how to win in this culture. I don't know how to get people. I mean, I guess I could work harder, whatever that means. I do work hard. Maybe I'll read some of my poetry. I do want to do a whole. I don't know what I'm going to read on Thursday, but I do want to do a whole reading online. Let me read this. I didn't read this last night. Oh, yeah, I need to talk about the film festival some more. Okay, 11/22 Touch Up. Whatever it takes to spend time with somebody else, even going anywhere. The room gets colder when I turn the lights up, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Gilgamesh. Jason Momoa is Enkidu. Busiest bar night of the year, getting away from the family. People were shocked. Minimal Friend put on blast. French Niagara Zone of Poppy. My go-to book when reading for proportion. Pete's hit the skids. Now it's the pits. shooting vertical portrait rather than landscape. Like the icebox, the buses weave in and out and are blue whales, laughing our ass off at Dennis Leary, no cure for cancer. Academia pitchforks my abortion. Drizzlicious outlives atomic holocaust in Doomer fallout shelter. I think that speaks for itself. I don't know, man. I mean, I I have a lot of anger, I guess, and I am not. I mean, I've been insecure about my poetry, let's say, really since I think that's the nature of poetry. Just you're insecure about it. But my literary career definitely, I don't know, it hasn't been as steeped in glory maybe as I would have liked. I mean, I certainly haven't, really established any kind of. I mean, I've been published. I'm appreciative of the places that have published me. I've even been published in like good places. Like I don't feel uh like bad at it. That's like the most frustrating part is, like I do feel like knowledgeable about it. I feel like I am somewhat of an authority. Certainly as much as a lot of professors, as a lot of so-called professors, I would be a lot better of a poetry teacher than probably most professors out there, and that's part of, okay, I'm on 20%. Okay. I have been able to not, I don't, not that I like teach people, but like part of my work in New York the whole time I've been here has been to help people sort of develop as artists, whether that was at the Slooge, onward through working with Sarah, onward through the open mic. Like I do work with a lot of people that are young artists or developing, and I don't know, I could teach, and it's natural for the proctor to teach. So it's frustrating to not have job security or to be able to do that for a job, and because that's what all poets do now. And it's also just frustrating to not be, I don't know, any kind of New York. I get asked to read here and there, but I don't know. With poetry, it's like you almost just do it for your own. It'd be nice to make a job out of it, but it's deeper than that for me. It's more like a way of life, and to live that way of life purely, it's like I'd like to be an academic. I'd like to be a teacher. I'd like to make money doing it. I'd like my books to sell and to get published and this and that. Um, I suppose I've got some confusion with poetry as being as if it's some kind of pure moral realm or something where like people are going to make choices that are like more based on like being a good person or ethical or not compromised by money or uh like that's why stopped wanting to do film stuff, because every film is just some kind of weird psychotic anxiety nightmare about people getting shot or blown up, or I was in horror films, I was in whatever. Poetry seemed like a sanctuary where it was like people still kind of were level-headed and were as close to being awake and seeing things as they are as any of the parts of culture, I guess. You're supposed to see the truth, you're supposed to say the truth That's the point of writing, right? Is to the truth, whatever the fuck that means. Saying something true, right? That's what we're all trying to do, sort of. Whether you're a comedian or a songwriter or whatever, filmmaker, something people recognize. There's this Don DeLillo quote, right, about American writers need to stand in the shadows and be more dangerous. Writers now are tempted to be part of the status quo. And I don't know. To me, that's what academia represents. It's like people want job security. They want to spend time, in classrooms talking about literature with 22-year-olds for some reason. And they want time to write their own stuff. They want to avoid a real job, a full-time job. And they want to have time. And so a university job it's a climate with like-minded people. It would be great. I'd love to be a part of it, But it does seem like that quote says they're baiting writers, they're tempting writers to be a part of the status quo. I mean, that's what I see when I read poetry now. Contrary to whatever the poets may say politically, about whatever their political beliefs are, when I read the work, it seems very calm and orderly and, I don't know, just kind of upholding. It doesn't seem disruptive, really. I don't know. Maybe I should try to do something a little more grown up or mature, calmer, more soothing or something. Poetry's supposed to be soothing. And I don't know, I just have so much anger. So I was talking about my insecurity, right? And that's just snowballed. I feel like my insecurity as a poet has just snowballed over my New York decade, which is really my poetry decade. I started really devoting my life to poetry in like 2008, spring 2008. I moved to New York at the end of 2010. And so, most of my life as a poet has been in New York, learning from New York, learning at Poets House, going to open mics, learning at bookstores. Most of the shit I learned at Poets House and in fucking bookstores, not at readings, not at Poetry Project, not from other poets. Most other poets, and maybe this is just me and my animosity and my hostility, but most other poets have been fucking douchebags to me. They're all assholes as far as I'm concerned. None of them have gone on to the... Greg Masters is the man. I love Greg Masters. He's my friend. Don Yorty's nice. Some of them have been sort of nice. But mostly I've been met with, disbelief. And sort of, go away. The feeling of, this guy's too angry and loud, go away. And so, my story of life as a poet in New York City has been not one of triumph or success. It's like my play, no one ever did my fucking play at, the fucking Soho Rep, nobody ever did. I'm underground. Let's just say that. I don't know how to work into those institutional things. And I'm suspicious of anybody who does. Anybody who can fill out a grad school application and pay the fees and shit is not a poet. I'm sorry, you're not a poet. If you got into grad school, you're not a poet. You're too proficient. That's not what it's about. It's about being dysfunctional in our society that's just a bunch of bureaucratic hoops. Our society demands that people control themselves and have so much fucking self-control. And that's all these writers are doing, is playing into that. They are they're managing and they're manicuring their experience into this fucking poodle of a poem. It's like, let me cut its hair and it's a poodle. And it's a poodle. And that's nice and everything, but the world is there. Look at all the garbage in the ocean. Okay? I've been watching these TikTok videos about, apparently there is just miles and, just unbelievable garbage in the ocean. That's what my poetry. My poetry is garbage in the ocean, and I don't know. I don't. Everything's so slick. Everything's so smooth. How is no one panicking? How is no? I don't know. I don't want to reflect that. That's our reality as millennials has not been smooth. We've been ripped off. We've been gypped. We've had a rough time. We've been infantilized. We've been financialized, and the MFA thing is a huge part of that. That is another reason why I'm against it and try to create this alternative universe or curriculum or whatever university, the Free People's University of Easy Paradise in the New York City streets and just the commons, wherever you can get it, cheap public space, the library, YouTube, wherever the fuck you can get it, wherever you can spread enlightenment and consciousness and teach. This is my fucking poetry class. My live streams are basically like my class. If I was a professor, this is what I would do. You'd come into the fucking room and I would basically run my fucking mouth for 2 hours and chug Power J's and talk about, well, okay, student debt, right? Student loan debt. College used to be $400 a semester 30 years ago, and it's gone up in price astronomically because they financialized and they privatized education. And the fucking MFA programs all, I mean, how much does it cost to go to fucking Columbia University to get an MFA? I don't even know. But, it's got to be at least 40 grand. It's got to be at least 20 grand a fucking semester or whatever, year, plus living expenses, which in New York, as we all know right now. So it's like, first of all, you're saying poor people, you're not eligible. Or if you are eligible, you're either going to have to get a scholarship, given out because for XYZ, all of those things are all now categorized to as well. Or you're going to have to take out a ton of student loan debt, which is which is borrowed from the government. And they're going to use that money to build bombs and shit. And I don't want to be involved, I don't want to be affiliated with, some research university, a bunch of fucking tenured fat cats going out to bougie dinners every fucking night of the week. Feeling superior, feeling intellectually superior. That's the part that drives me nuts, is they think they're smarter than us. They think they own poetry. They think their poetry is the only poetry that's valid. It's all a network of people vouching for each other, blurbing each other, clout sucking, quid pro quo. And I don't know, I'm not well heeled enough, I'm white trash from Ohio. And I chain smoke Power J's on the internet once a week. I don't know how. I could. All these kids in these MFA programs are 22 years old. And they were all started by the CIA. These MFA programs were all seeded with money from the fucking intelligence agencies. They want to control what the writers in this country are thinking. They want to mold anybody who wants to be a writer. They want to get their hands on you and mold what you're thinking and make sure it's pre-approved. Have it run by all the other little narcs and all the other little fan fiction jack-offs. What? What? Are you watching this? Are you one of the people that's watching? Oh, God. He's watching. Okay. Are you one of the people that's watching? If you're watching, can you at least like it? I don't know. Maybe he's talking to somebody else. You know, he just kind of calls everybody Kuzu, which is endearing. But I'm never sure if it's me. Am I Kuzu? Is it somebody else? Which Kuzu? You know, I might just go long tonight because I haven't done this in a while. I'm just getting warmed up. The first, you know, hour. I know I harp on this a lot. I don't know. What's the path forward for me? I don't know. I thought I was going to be fucking, you know. It just feels like you can't win. Keep vlogging, keep streaming. Sorry, I'm on a smoke break right now. If you're smoking at home, I'm worried that smoking is gonna like make all my YouTube videos get banned at some point. Cause like TikTok, I know TikTok, you're like you can't smoke on TikTok. So if you're smoking at home, now's the time. Yeah, come to Vlog to Vlog. I passed out during Night of Cups. They're kind of the same movie. Vlog to Vlog, Song to Song is about the music industry. And it captures the kind of Mumford. They look like Chris Martin. When I see Ryan Gosling and when I see Fassbender, I'm like, he looks like Chris Martin. This other guy looks like Mumford. Neither one of them look like musicians. Musicians got riz. You know what I mean? Musicians are fashion coded. Musicians got drip. They're drip coded. Okay? Ryan Gosling has no drip. He's got no riz. No cap, for real, for real. I ain't capping. That was like, I feel like he should have cast musicians. You know, the biggest frustration, one of the biggest frustrations in my life is seeing that these directors made all these films. Theoretically, I could have been in a Terrence Malick film. You know, in 2003, when I was 18 years old in Ohio, and I was a Terrence Malick fan, he wasn't making movies, really. And then, boom, he starts making all these movies. Who's he got? Ryan Gosling, my arch enemy. I think did he do one with Andrew Garfield? If I had really done things right in life, if I had chosen the correct path, I would have been in one of those movies. I could have been in Song to Song. I could have been Ryan Gosling. Instead of a bum, which is what I am, let's face it. I could have taken Wilson apart. You said we're going for the price on Wilson. Kid, it ain't your night. It ain't your night. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't know. I don't know what the people want. It's them. It's not me. Here I am live streaming. There's 2 people watching. I appreciate that, but yeah, I could have been in Song to Song. Oh my god, I've only got 10% battery. My fucking phone charger has stopped the fucking whatever you call it. The outlet in the phone is so jacked that like now it like literally won't even charge. So I feel like my phone is just gonna stop charging, and then this is my power cord right here. So it's like it's hanging on by a thread, like literally. So I'm on my last 10% right here. I'm gonna light some white magic incense here, because we're all about the light magic. That's what poetry is about. I don't know. I should read more, maybe run my mouth less. Is that why my poetry is not respected by all the greatest poets of the age have dismissed me? So they must be right. I mean, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I supposed to do with my life? You know, I feel like I took the KGB bar, which is like a vaunted literary institution, and I sort of lost sight of that fact. You know, people come there because they come there because it's a literary institution. They don't want to do stand-up comedy. They don't want to see stand-up comedy. And I wasn't, I'm not trying to play favorites, but I feel like the poets feel like it's not the cool place to come anymore. Easy Paradise is not the cool place anymore. It's a stand-up comedy open mic for the, toxic, unfunny. I don't know. I do think we have the best, most interesting, toxic, unfunny comedians in New York, actually. I think I have a good eye for talent, actually. And, we get interesting comedians. One of the things I'd love to make a film, because now I have such an interesting cast. I know so many interesting people. It's like I could make a film with just amazing, amazing actors, amazing talent, because of all these people from the open mic. I've only got 10% battery. God damn it! What should I do? I guess I should just cut the stream. I got other shit I gotta do. Fuck. Oh my god. I don't know. So, my other job, I fucked up the audio on this video I was making, so, I'm just being reminded of my own incompetence. I've always been incompetent. I don't have self-discipline to really make things well. That's why these poets don't respect me. The major poets of our day don't respect me. The minor poets of our day don't respect me. The really minor poets of our day don't respect me. But there's some people that do, but there's got to be a place for wild incompetence, okay? I guess, I don't know. Not everybody's meant to play in the NFL, I guess. But it's just, I don't know. I love living in New York because of all the poetry action and all the poetry, that's out there, and all the poets. But I also do feel like I'm getting to the point where maybe I've seen it all, or I've burned all my bridges. Or I don't know. I don't know how to succeed here. Do I like the open mic? Does it, are its best days ahead of it? I'm not sure. That doesn't depress me in any way. It is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. I'm prepared for whatever happens. Um, but it's like, I gotta get people reading my books or watching my vlogs or. It's the only way. It's the only way forward for me. It's the only path forward. You know. I don't think I'm going to be accepted by legitimate society. Um, And I don't know. I've brought a lot of insecurity and hostility into interactions and things that wasn't really warranted, which probably, like, you know, ruined my chances with a lot of people. But I don't know if they probably wouldn't have liked what I'm doing anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's like I have to do it this way. Maybe that's ego, maybe that's I can't take criticism. I don't know if I could, the workshop that I was in this last spring, I feel like the people were not really they weren't really understanding what I was trying to do. And so they didn't really like it, but I also felt like based on what they had talked about in the room, I felt like they weren't qualified to read what I was doing. They weren't versed or even seeing what I was trying to do. They were thinking they wanted to read One Art by Elizabeth Bishop, which is fine. It's a great poem, but you know, it's the first thing you read. It's like I don't know. That's my excuse. Nobody's qualified. No, I don't know. Uh, I don't know how to like try harder and do it the right way and slow it down. At this point, I've gone too far. You have to work at the top of your intelligence. I don't know. I don't. I think like a part of me like I can't. I don't know. Just like for one thing, the landscape of like success in this literary world in this literary scene, it would not feel appropriate for me in a certain way, and there are definitely people out there that I feel like are probably better writers than me that like are success. Like, okay, I was reading Monica McClure's book that just got put out by Winter Editions. Monica McClure, that book was blowing my fucking mind. It was very very well done, and it's like she wasn't cheating. She wasn't doing any kind of weird style postmodernism or anything. Like it was just all fucking just like really good writing. I don't know. I try to do that, but I try to obscure it with a lot of fun, kind of scatological language, texture, and mishearing kind of enables possibility, you know, in a way that I find fun. And I want my writing to expand outward into as many interpretations as possible. I don't want it to be limited or earthbound. I want it to be figurative and abstract at the same time and conversational, and I want it to be a movie script. And what I hear on the street, I want it to be all the voices. I want to pull all the voices from the subways and Union Square and the Q train and all of it. I want to pull all that into my little notebook and take it everywhere and just balloon it out on stage like a bunch of elephant balloons at a parade. But there was my vlog. Okay, is that a good place to end? Maybe I'll go back and play a previous vlog. I don't, succeeding on the internet, it's like you gotta make. I should be doing reaction videos. What else do we got here? Okay. Oh, these are really old. I'm kind of curious about some of the older ones, but let's just put this on. We'll see. Oh, look at my hair. I need to cut my hair. My phone is probably gonna die. Should I just quit? Fuck. I don't know, man. I wish I was just like a better hanger outer too. That was like my dream, I guess, when I came back to New York, was like being a part of a poetry scene. And I'm not, I don't know. Maybe I could be. I should be better at that. I should try to be better at that. Yeah, I don't know. We're just, do I just keep vlogging, keep writing my, it feels like, I kind of need a new form or something maybe, or I need to like write a big book. Maybe I should assemble all my chapbooks into like one New York book or something. I mean, for this reading I did with Philip, I had a long poem that was meant to be an hour long because the reading was an hour, right? We both had an hour. So maybe I'll do that on Thursday. I don't know. I'm going to read over the vlog to give the full experience. We're trying to be serious artists in America. I do think that most of our culture is a fucking joke. Even most of the poets and shit. It's like they're not, I don't know. There is something about like being insistently like scrawny with your resources and shit, and wearing that on your sleeve and just putting it out there anyway with all your fucking heart. Your ideas, your beliefs, the way that things actually sound, the way that you want it to look. I want it to be playful. I want it to be fun. I want it to be readable. I want it to be simple. I want it to be accessible. I want it to be like hip hop. I want it to be funny and fucking profound but I want it to be a film. I want it to be a mind film, a cinematic home video like this. I don't even remember what the fuck this was. What was this? My hair's looking good. God damn, I should cut it. I look a lot younger. Yikes. These last 6 months. This was like April or something. I don't know. I've been putting everything into this Monday show. You know. And it's been a beautiful thing. And it will always, the videos. We have it on video no matter what happens, it's already kind of a monumental library. I don't know. I'm hoping for maybe a break in my living circumstances put pressure on all this stuff, right? If I had a rent controlled apartment and I could just pay $600 a month for rent for the rest of my fucking life, I'd be fine. I wouldn't even have to ask these questions. I just keep doing what I'm doing. The economics put pressure on where I have to be like, oh my God, do I need to become an actor? Do I need to write films? Do I need to, with the open mic, right? Part of it is financial, and I don't necessarily it's not the greatest thing, right? That I have to exploit people for the chance that I make money, right? It would be nice to just be able to have an art event and have people come and do their thing, and not the money wasn't a factor. But now I feel like I have to get people come out, or I'm going to be, because I need money. And so, I'm relying on people who are my friends or whatever. It's like, well, if you didn't come out, it's like, God damn it. Now I'm not making money. So it's like, what happened? I had this thing that was really cool, but it's also like, well, maybe I shouldn't look at it that way. I'm not making that much money from it to begin with. If I wanted to monetize it, like I said, I should sell t-shirts. That would be the best way to monetize it. But, I look at it as an artistic piece you know, in and of itself. The Easy Paradise open mic, however long it lasts, all of the shows as one kind of entity exist as kind of one, you know, work. And you could probably watch it from the beginning to end. And I mean, it's all in that room. And it would all kind of be, it would be unbelievably long. And it would be an interesting compendium of the scene, you know, at that era. I think it was an interesting time for open mics in the city. It's going to be, you know, what was I watching? Some TikTok video about some business. There were no customers. Oh, parking. Black Friday. Black Friday went bust, right? Nobody went. Is that true? I don't know if that's actually true or if that's just whatever TikTok propaganda, but it said no one shopped on Black Friday really this year. It was like 20% or something what it typically is. And it's like, yeah, because nobody has any fucking money, you know? Like, everything's so expensive now. You know, these companies don't know what things cost. These rich people do not know what things cost. So they went, you know, they started to raise the prices too much because people had 20 grand because of the pandemic. And now it's like, fuck, all that money's gone. And now shit's expensive. Nobody can afford a place to live. You know, everybody's rent got raised because of these stupid algorithms. And the private, you know, fucking land investors and shit. So everybody's getting squeezed. And I don't, you know, that makes it harder for, you know, God bless the people that are coming out to the open mic and spending money, you know. Like I said, I don't want to exploit anybody, though, you know, so it would be nice, you know, it's not, I had like a poetry series, you know, the poetry series I did at Muchmore's before the pandemic was like once a month. I'd usually have a couple features, like 2 or 3, and then we'd have an open mic at the end, which usually had like 5 people. And I would, you know, me and Sarah would do something at the beginning and usually at the, it was, you know, so it was sort of like the open mic. It was at Muchmore's. It was the last Sunday of the month. We wouldn't get huge crowds, but we'd get 20 people, and they were all poets. You know, the thing is, poets, they want to, they go to poetry shit. They want to meet each other. They want to, you know, hang out, drink. They want to hear each other. They want to hear poetry. At my open mic, you know, I would love it if I had more of a hardcore poetry audience. You know, we had more of that in the beginning, but, you know, to be honest, it's always been a shifting audience, and it's always shed people. In the beginning, there was, you know, Jonathan Aprea would come out a lot, and James came out a few times. A few people from Poetry Project came out a few times. And I get it. You know, and a more hardcore kind of, you know, there were a few other people that came out to the early Easy Paradise open mics. But by, you know, January or something, they never came back. That was kind of the end of it. It had served its purpose for them, and it had kind of grown. And even for them, it had already become a different thing by that point. So it's like, even now, it's like, you know, I was looking at the pictures. It's like, you know, about this time last year, we had about this many. We had less people, actually. You know, we do have more people now than we had at this time last year. So it's like we are